Right, on the bench today we have the controllers that were picked up in the job lot. Now, they all work, but they all suffer from the same issue. And a very common issue is that the thumbsticks are very loose. So what I'm going to do, I've done a bit of research on sort of potential fixes, other than obviously replacing the thumbstick. You can get them on AliExpress. They aren't really all that expensive, and it's a straight swap in type of part. But I would rather make an attempt to get them back up and running as they are with the original part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just choose one to work on, possibly the worst one. I think maybe this grey one's probably got the loosest stick. So we'll work on that one, and what else we're going to do in this video is I'd borrowed a known working controller, well, supposed to be working controller, just to help when I first got the job lot in for testing. But one of the ones I got that was known working has a bit of an issue with the cable and connector. I couldn't get this one to register at all, and also it was missing the top cap of the thumbstick, so I just 3D printed one and glued it on, so that's nice and solid. But what we'll do is we'll go through replacing one of these cables as well. But first, let's get working on the sticks. So I'll get desk cleared, we'll choose one to work on, and we'll try a few different bits and pieces to see what gets these back up and running. Right, let's make a start with this one. First thing to do would be getting all the screws out. Now, yep, the screws are there, so you've got two small screws down there, 4, 5, 6, 7 other screws around the base. So let's get these removed. That off. Take these off just to keep them out of the way. Now we have 3 screws holding it in place. Now we need to pop this out of the way. And disconnect this from the board. And get the screws out. And we can set that aside for now. Right. And the screw holds the two halves together, as well as these 2 clips. go. Now, I'll just zoom in on this. So I think you should be able to see in there what looks like dust, but that's basically the bowl that this part sits in. And there's my tweezers. And that basically the movement back and forward just wears this down over time. It's not actually the worst I've seen. I've seen some where this whole board, you can barely see the circuit. There's that much out on it. Right, so one thing you can do is you can build up the bowl using like epoxy. Now I probably will add a little bit of epoxy into there just to reduce some of that wear. But the main thing that we're going to be doing is, if I can just pop this off. You see that? You get wear as well on this part. So one solution that I seen was to add basically homemade washers to this part just to tighten it up when it's inside. And I have already tried this on a controller, but I didn't use plastic washers. I used basically PTFE tape, plumber's tape, and just wrapped it around the base to build it up. And it did tighten it, but I just felt it was a little spongy. Whereas if you were to use a plastic washer, I think you're going to maintain, although it'll tighten it, it's going to maintain the sort of plastic on plastic contact, the movement. It should slide rather than feel spongy. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make up some little washers just out of a bit of plastic. So I'll be back shortly and we'll make a start to that. Okay, that's everything clean. Gave them a dust out, wipe over with isopropyl. Now, what I did was I have this filter plastic for one of my lights. I don't use the colour filters because it's white I'm wanting. Drill a 2.5mm hole and then cut the piece out, and then hopefully you're going to create a disc like that and cut a little hole in one side, a slit in one side. This is just to allow you to get it over the top of here. Obviously that's not going to fit and you need it to be snug around this bit here. So let's do that. Get this back in. Put the spring back in place. And I try and get this over. Okay, there we go. That's it round the collar. And then I'm going to put this piece on, give it a twist. There we go. We can give it a quick check, because we may need to put more than one on, I'm not entirely sure. I had to actually wrap on a fair amount of plumber's tape. So I'm not sure one will do the job, but we'll see. Alright. Okay, that's sitting the wrong way for a start. Turn it round. back together. I'll just hold this closed just now. Right, has it worked? Well, it's certainly no longer flopping around. Springing back into place. Yeah, I don't think we're even going to have to do anything with the bowl inside. Yeah, that seems very responsive. Nice, I like that. Like I say, it's a little bit of movement, but when you consider what it was like, we'll give it a little test on the console. But that feels really nice. Yep, happy with that. Right, what I've got here is a bit of some plastic safe silicone. A spray, but I wasn't really want to spray it in case it went everywhere. But and that should reduce any further rubbing, should help lubricate it. Not that it's actually touching anything these days. Okay. I think I'm going to add a little bit onto these parts as well. Yeah, I'm actually surprised how well that did turn out. I thought I'd had to have messed about with it a lot more than that, you know, with the thickness. Right, that's that. It's not going to fall apart again, and wow, what a difference. Excellent. Right, okay, I'm just going to give the controller a wee wipe down with a cotton bud. Now I'll reassemble it and give it a little test on the console. Right, that's everything being cleaned. Went over it all with isopropyl alcohol. I've taken all the buttons out, given them a clean. So it's just a case now of piecing it back together. So board in, and these little boards they just fit into the slots in the case. Make sure that the rubber goes into the slot as well, rather than sitting on the outside. Right. Just realised I never gave these a clean. This one doesn't look as bad actually. Just Just weave this back round all posts. Put that back in a second. Right, we'll get this thumbstick fit back in. Up to screw. Actually, something I've just noticed there on this one. It's actually got a piece that's broke off just on this corner here. So I'll have to get that glued back on. Once I figure out how it's sat. That should sit right there. So I'll just get a bit of super glue. Give that a bit of time to set and then we'll continue with the rebuild. Okay, that's that set back in place. That's that. Just get all the screws back in. Right. Finish off by giving it a general clean on the outside. Okay, that's actually turned out really nice. So I think next, before we jump on to the testing, I'm going to replace the wire and the third-party controller that's got the broken cable. I'll just grab that now and we'll get started. Okay, here we have the controller that's needing its cabled in. Also needing a little bit of a clean up, which we'll do once I've got the cable replaced. So as before, we'll start by removing the screws. You don't really need to see this bit, so we'll just skip forward to once it's open. Right, the screws are out. There is actually only, you've got the 2 screws here and here, but there's only 5 screws on this controller. Rather than, I think it was 7 on the genuine original one. Right, that should come apart pretty much the same. Right, one of the first differences with this one is it has the strain relief here, whereas the original controllers used the posts that you would weave the cable round for strain relief. So I may have to look at whether or not I can actually get that out of there so I can reuse it. Either that, or I may have to possibly put a small cable tie on the back of the cable. Right. Okay, just get these off. Similar idea here. Main difference is the pads attached to the button, and it's only the boards, the little circuit boards, that are connected to the groove. Now, is this just going to lift off? Looks like it. Have a quick look underneath. Everything's actually looking pretty clean. Isn't there anything to worry about there? While I've got it open, may as well give these a wipe over. Grab it, that is. contacts on the board. And let's not forget these ones here. That's that done. I think we'll just pop this back in position. And the wires that we need to get to for soldering are all three are on top of the board by the looks of that. Right, now I need a little bit of isopropyl. Hopefully loosen this glue off. Looks like it's just hot glue. And it is. I'm just going to slip these off here. So black, white and red. And the replacement comes as black, white and red as well. Pop the soldering iron on. And I'm just going to solder them directly to the top. Black, white and red. Try that again. So zoom in a bit so you can see better. See attached. And I'm going to have to come along here and mix that around there. So I'm going to get a cable tie. Just a small one. We attach that just here. That down. snip off excess. Get these back in place. Zoom back out a little again. Still have these to put back in. I just want to check if that's going to work well enough as strain relief. Looking at this, I don't think I'm going to be able to reuse that. It's not going to come off, so I mean, it's certainly, you couldn't pull it through, but there is a bit of movement in the opposite direction. But it's not going to put any pressure on the solder joints, and there shouldn't be anything excess on the wires themselves. Right. And what I may do, in fact, is I think I'll probably add a bit of hot glue just into this area here and over where the wires are soldered. So, see now, I should have a glue stick handy. Turn on the hot air. Get that back in position again. There we go. Turn the airspeed up. Okay, all the screws are back in. I'm just going to give this area a bit of a clean. So I'm just going to go around it with my little toothpick. Just do the grimy out first. And toothbrush. Okay, that's that one cleaned up and ready for testing. So we'll test a pair of them. We'll test this one which has had the wire done, we'll test the other one which has had the thumbstick hopefully corrected. I will be doing all the if it's successful, I will be doing the control sticks on all of them, but I won't be doing that on camera. There's no point in showing you the same thing over and over again. Right, so we'll be back when we've got the console set up and we're ready to test. Right, time to give this a controller a test. See if it what we've done made a difference. Left and right seems to work fine. Up, down. Let's see what nice slow movement, and then quick. Slow and then quick, and it's moving straight up and down. I'm guessing I'm not getting over there. Oops. Right. I'd say that's definitely this is definitely working fine, the stick, and it's centre nice. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with it turned out overall actually. Just switch this off. Yeah, definitely adding the little homemade washers to the stick definitely made a pretty much instant improvement. I mean, there's a tiny bit of movement, but virtually nothing compared to what it was like. And cosmetically, the controller looks pretty mint, to be honest. So yeah, very happy with that, and I would say that's definitely the better technique of the two, rather than working on filling the dome. A combination of the two may even be better, I'm not sure, but definitely that works a treat. Right, so that's that for the controllers. I'll work through the rest of them off camera. It'll just be the same thing that's getting done over and over again, so I'm not going to show that. Right, so I would say overall that job lot that I purchased has been well worth what I paid for it. I think it was about £80 for the box plus the commission to the auction house. So probably £90 something there or thereabouts. Basically got two good Nintendo 64s, a good GameCube, and 6 salvageable controllers out of it. So yeah, very happy with that. GameCube's currently upstairs being played. I will keep one of the N64s for myself, and I'll just move the other one on. So yeah, very happy. Right, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, then subscribe to the channel. It's very much appreciated, and it encourages me to keep producing the videos. If you want notified when I upload new content, then just click that little bell notification icon. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.